Hello, and welcome to the very first lesson. In this course, we are going to cover all the techniques that you need to create beautiful artworks with your own style. So, this is just the beginning, and we have so many lessons to go through, so follow along and always share your practices and questions. Now, let's start. So, as you can see, we are going to start with the first sphere. You always have to follow my hand movements and see how you are doing, and also at the same time, please practice. So, here we are drawing very plain hatching lines. For the very first sphere, you can see we are dividing it and also where is gonna be more highlights or less highlights. So please follow the hand movement, pick up your pencil, any brand would do. You don't have to be worried that I have this pencil or I don't have that pencil. Now you can see we start at the very first line. We are drawing very plain hatching lines actually here using cobalt blue. So as you saw, we're going to start from the very first hatching techniques in this lesson. Hatching usually can get divided into three versions. Now we are going to look at all the three models together. In each sphere, we are going to do different techniques actually, different hatching techniques. Each sphere has a top line, above and front. Each line, as you can see, my hand moving, it gets darker and darker going towards the end. So for this sphere that I'm drawing, the hatching lines, we draw from the light to dark with equal lines as you see. The light should be drawn from bottom and goes up, as it feels like you're throwing your lines up. See how we are doing? Just throw it up. And you have to keep layering up. The first layer should not be so dark, guys. Make sure that you start drawing very in a subtle way, and then you add layers. Either it's shading, hatching, or actual drawing it on your model. So we are adding more layers of lines to make it stand out more and work on the root line bottoms part a little more and make it more obvious. As you can see, the number of layers you create depends on you actually, but don't get rid of all the whiteness of the paper please, as you can't bring back the white highlights or draw them with white pencils later. So the second one, cross hatching. And again, we are using our cobalt blue ones. You can see on the screen what is cross-hatching. Please always follow up the writings that appear on the screen. Those are there for you to teach you more about like the definition of everything we are using. So in the next technique, we are going through some cross-hatching as I mentioned. So what is cross-hatching technique? They're a combination of up and cross lines together, crossing each other. So again, we follow the same technique as we did previously in the previous sphere. Please look how the lines are so equal from each other. Now, this part, again, the lines are equal. Look at my hand movements, follow along. Drawing circles is quite like easy. You can do it with like a coin, freehand, with other tools. So don't let anything like prevent you from practicing. And guys, these are actually very important practices. So don't ignore them and start practicing, because later on in later like lessons we are going to do some very advanced portrait. You will need all these techniques in order to do those. So it's good that you understand the definition of what is hatching, cross hatching, and so on. You can see we are layering up here. Keep repeating. Repetition, either in practice, in life, in everything is good. Well, in some stuff maybe it's not good, but mainly repeating stuff and practicing is very important. So we are repeating the same pattern to give more layers. It's more feel like a 3D feeling. So please follow the hand movement. You can see if we add more layers to the previous sphere, it becomes like we are giving more shade onto it. Just it feels more real. So we keep repeating it. Even though we keep going around from different angles, I'm still careful not to overdo it, not to give too much shade or less, just all of them to feel the same. So if you feel that you need to erase something, go and through with it. As I mentioned, repeating the same pattern to give more layers creates a 3D feeling. So if you just let go with the first and second layer, well, that's good, but it's not good enough. So you need to be patient, especially with color pencils. However, I have to mention in this course, what we are the technique, the color techniques we are using, it's a little different from other courses. I can say without a doubt that you have like came across or seen before, because we want you to complete your artworks faster and create your own style. So this is a little away from traditional like techniques that you have learned before, as you will see in the next lessons as well. You can see I keep going back. If I see that something needs to be added on, I keep doing it. The pressure that I bring onto the paper is not a lot, guys. I'm extremely careful with it. So the next one we are doing, we're still using cobalt blue. I have to say blue is my favorite color. Maybe that's one of the reasons I'm mainly using it, but we will change like the color in the next few spheres as well. So this style is pointillism hatching actually. As I mentioned, we call it pointillism. It takes a really long time to do it, to be honest with you, but the end result can be very interesting. When we go up to the sphere, the dots should get reduced. This technique is great for details and textures that require like this kind of technique, I have to mention. For sure, the places you need to show more, use more points or dots, I have to say. And don't forget not to lose the highlights parts of the paper. I mean, the whiteness of the paper when it requires. Because if you fill up everything, it's going to be really hard to get the whiteness back. So you can see we are keep pointing and put dots on our paper. Yeah, it's gonna take a really long time and I barely use these techniques myself, but you need to do it at least once to have a feeling, okay, do I like this or I don't like this. Keep looking at my hand moves, have a piece of paper and follow along. When it comes to the papers, of course, when I buy one, I try not to really go with a well, with good brands, because when you're doing your main artworks, really worse, you at least you choose a good paper which you have it on your downloadable resources on this course. Make sure that you go through them and download them and see what are the good brands that we have introduced to you. You can see the top parts has more highlights on it, so we kind of leave it like empty and keep the paper's whiteness. Look at the hand movement and keep repeating the process, adding more layers. You can see we keep adding more dots the same places. Just erasing the line, the guideline line as I drew at the very beginning of the circle. If after a few times practice you don't even have to draw the guideline lines, you can just straight away go on your model and draw it. As I mentioned, adding more layers, guys, means a more realistic feeling. For this, you don't need to have a very sharp pencil, but try not to damage the paper with the tip of the pencil as well. Not to put too much pressure and take your time. Your dots, try them to look like dots, because at some point you get really tired and it's like, okay, let me just leave it. So if you don't add more layers, it's not really gonna look like realistic. Have a look how much we add more layers on top of the other dots is gonna feels more 3D version. Keep repeating, keep adding. Careful to make sure the highlights gonna be intact. Moderate your layering, because when it goes up, reduce the dots as you can see, like give more gaps as you can see again. So the paper I'm using actually is a paper that it is suitable for this kind of drawing. The brand is called Cas Art. Actually, I bought it in London. So, however, we do have a lot of different paper brands that you can use instead of this one. All of them have been introduced in your downloadable resources. Do go through your projects and also assignments. Don't forget to read them carefully and follow along, because those gonna help you to get better and better at this. We are almost at the end, so no worries, it's gonna be finished soon. Well, it is a very different technique. It takes a really long time to do it, and sometimes it's really worth it. Good things comes when you have patience, hopefully. So now we feel, yeah, almost done. All three of them done. Different versions of techniques. I'm quite happy with it, so I think I will leave it as it is and move on, start moving on to the next one. So in this sphere, there are two parts that light shines on them. Again, I'm gonna divide it as you can see. We're still using the same color. I promise I'm gonna change it in the next one. And as you can see on the screen, the light naturally should be white, the whiteness of the paper. This sphere is one of the important ones as this technique. We are going to use a lot in our color pencil examples in the future ones. Please follow the hand movement and make sure of your hand pressure. The pencil pressure and hand pressure, guys, is very important. Don't think like, okay, any kind of hand pressure and pencil pressure would be okay. After a while, after a few times practice, you will get a hand of it, but you have to be careful of your hand movement and pencil pressure. Look at the hand movement. It's circular motion, it's circular movement. We're gonna use this a lot. I can say without a doubt on 90% of the lessons that we are doing. And even though this is not really realistic, it looks like very stylish, your own style, and near realistic style, but it's not realistic, because in realistic color pencil you need to like add lots of layers with really sharp pencils. So this is actually called blending. Blending is layering color or colors together on the surface and keep, as you can see, you have to add layers. It's on it. Then again, here we should care about the divisions and how we should move across the sphere in circular or wavy way. The white part, leave it alone. Don't touch it if it's not needed. Because how much you try, it will be really hard to bring back that whiteness of the paper. You can see where I stop my pencil and not really go entirely onto the main highlights, that top part you just saw. Adding more layers with minimal like pressure. Now we are almost like starting to do the second layer, I have to say. We have like added other parts, like kept going on it, but this is actual the main layers, the second layers we are doing. Look at the hand movement. Put this time we're gonna put a little more pressure. The first layer should be like minimum pressure, but in the second layer you can add more pressure. So everything has its own formula. Like try not to really mix them to give a lot of pressure at the very beginning. You have to moderate and see where is required to do that. Again, in circular motion we are giving more pressure, go around. See, we keep going back and forth. I don't just let go of one part. Here, mainly your hand movement is very important. So don't forget to do circular movements. Keep repeating, repeating, and practicing. If I let go here, it's gonna feels like okay, it's not done properly. So we have to keep practicing. We have to keep layering here. When you have a pencil and a piece of paper, when you start doing it, it's very enjoyable. It's like it's an art is art therapy as well. It doesn't have to necessarily like makes you like okay, I need to create a perfect like artwork. It gives you a very good feeling when you have started doing this. This is almost the third layer because you can see the first layer was like minimum pressure, the second one more, and now this is almost the third one. I'm adding more and more. And when I add more layers, it's almost near the bottom part rather than the top part. You can see again we are adding more pressure, circular motion. Usually in realistic drawings you should not have graininess, white graininess of the paper. So make sure that you leave it. Keep repeating. You can see I have done this going back and forth several times. I just have to wait to see that okay, how much it needed, how much we don't need, like, and keep doing it. And of course, put your phones away while drawing, not like me. Now I'm going almost into general parts. It's like not details, but mostly like repeating the same pattern, as you can see, but more in general way, going around. It's not now more details. I was just saying, for realistic drawings, make sure the graininess of the paper goes away, but we don't mind for this technique, for this course, we keep them intact. We still have them. It's a kind of a beauty part of our this course because you will see a different and refreshed technique that maybe other like instructors don't advise it to you. And of course, you can finish your drawing faster with this one. Each part has a certain degree, like very dark, a medium, the midtones should be like done precisely and it goes towards the highlight. So this is our white Faber-Castell. It's another technique of burnishing. As you can see, look how the color is gonna be different because we're going to learn this color pencil techniques with using white paper. You can see how the color is changing. Faber-Castell white pencils don't have much burnishing power onto them, but have a look how they will look like. Still is good enough. If you have this brand, you don't really need to go to buy another brand. One thing I should have mentioned very beginning, don't think like, okay, I have this brand, do I need any brand? Do I need expensive brands? Anything you have, any kind of color pencils you have, please keep using those. It just, if you want to keep practicing and this is a career, like a path you want to keep doing it, I would advise you maybe get a 24 or 36 set of Faber-Castell pencil. It's really worth it because you can use it for a long time and they are good quality, one of the best qualities out there, so you don't have to go for other pencils. So even though in this course I'm going to teach you different brands, but still just choose one, don't spend too much and get the right one. If your brand doesn't have cobalt blue, just use the normal blue then. As you saw, we burnish through it using the white color, which makes the work really looks richer and softer. Also, it will show less paper graininess while using the white one. Now, in order to make our bright parts of we use some eraser before we go to the next sphere as we are about to start. So we are going to use purple, violet, and magenta. Okay, again, maybe your set doesn't have these two. Use red and purple or pinkish purple, like the two colors that really matches. So here I'm going to teach you how to blend two colors onto each other. As you can see, we move to the next sphere and techniques. We are going to use two pencils I mentioned to shade them and also teach you how to mix them and blend them perfectly. With the same technique, we are the circular motion that we have learned in previous sphere. We are going to start off this as well. Very lightly, you can see no pressure like the previous one. We are going to move the pencil from dark to light. One thing I have to mention, if you feel like you know all these techniques, you can always skip or make it go a little faster, but there are some of your friends out there, this is the first time they're going through this technique, so you can go to more advanced lesson of this course. So don't pressure yourself if you know all these techniques to keep watching it or practicing. I advise you to do it because even teachers, instructors need to warm up their hands before starting the model. So be patient and like practice these ones. It's worth it, but again, if you feel like I don't want to watch the introduction, you can always fast forward or go to the next lessons, which are not the techniques. From here, look at the hand movement and try to follow along. Make sure your pencils, this part are sharp because we are using two pencils, color pencil here. So we don't really need to go into hyper realistic, so that's why the pencils are not extremely sharp. We have covered almost most of the sphere now with our first pencil. This is the second one, which is magenta. Use a pink again if you don't have. You know, guys, you need to experience your colors and the color harmony, learn about it. It's not just about your instructor give you all the information, which we will. However, you need to experience yourself as well. Experience and experiment. It's very important. Because we are mixing two colors, we are going to try not to use lots of pencil like here and keep some room for the second pencil, which now we are using. My apology for the sometimes the head shows because we need to focus and see what's going on your paper. If you use too much color at the very beginning, the paper will lose this space, and also we called it tooth of the paper. That will be gone if you use lots of pressure. So it's hard to bring more color onto it if you have used. Now you can see I'm just putting the colors on the side. After the second layer with the first pencil, we going to include the second pencil magenta as you saw, and also the third layer with the same format we did before. Step by step, we're gonna go through the sphere and add more pressure from the very beginning and release the pressure when reaching to the top. You can see we have layer and we have some sections there. This not gonna stay like this because when we keep adding layers, they're gonna go away. I'm careful not to go to the highlight. Keep repeating, going through. I know I've mentioned before, but if you feel the lesson it's a little slow for you, I need to show it in a real time, which I think is the best one. I personally I don't like moving fast forward most of the times. We will do that in some parts of the drawing, even in this course, but it is really recommended you watch it real time because you always have the like option to go faster. Again, I'm just putting the color's name on the screen so you will know which one we are using if you missed it previously. Adding more layers. Now we are going to add more purple violet on the bottom part of the sphere, start to add more pressure and go in with circular movements. Now you can see we actually adding more pressure. It's very obvious when you start doing it. Slowly adding more pressure. Take my time and do it. Going slowly towards the top parts. So now that we have added this, maybe we're gonna start like using the other color. Just make sure you're satisfied with everything you're using. Now we are going to add more magenta, the second pencil more and from the very beginning. We have to make sure they blend well together, guys. That's very important. And mix them equally. The top part should be seen only as magenta and not purple one, or in different cases the darker pencil you're using, so be careful of the two color pencil you use. So our purple is the darker one and magenta is the like lighter color here, so the darker color should be seen the bottom part and lighter ones a little like more towards top part. So you can see the two colors really go well together, in which you will learn more about colors and color wheel in the next lesson. So don't worry about that. We have your back and teach you everything you need to create really beautiful artworks in the future lessons. This is the very beginning lesson, so always make sure that you're going to keep your spirit up and keep practicing. Also, it's never too late. This is just a very first practice. If you feel after first practice I'm gonna give up, that's not good. So I really recommend at least for this course, like to go through all the lessons. You will enjoy it and you will come up with a personal style that you haven't seen before. Now we are even adding more magenta onto the purple and around. From the very beginning even, we have to make sure they're blending well. From here is mainly repetition and how much more layers you need or want to add. This is very important technique, as you, if you learn how to mix these two color mixing well together, it will become even much easier in the next few lessons. Color and mixing is very enjoyable, guys, and it should give an accomplished feeling when you complete and color a white paper, I have to say. Now, here let's show you an example that later on where you're going to learn and practice from next lessons are delicious cherries. As you can see here, this is the same technique that you just learned, and you can see where we have used the same technique and near the two lines, and some have been mixed. The techniques we have used, some parts has more color, more layer, and some parts less, just exactly how we use. Also on the leaf of the cherry you can see the lines between light and dark, and some places you must leave the two colors apart, and some parts you have to mix them together. And you just saw where and which part of the sphere we have combined or kept them separate. The highlights of the work can be varied from very bright to less bright. You have to make sure to show the absolute whiteness and create those highlights according to your like environment light, I have to say. Now here you can add more magenta and also purple violet to give mixed feeling, or leave it as in one color. From this like part, it's your personal choice to add more colors or not. With this style that you're learning, we promise a very beautiful new color pencil technique that you won't feel like it's too much imitation, and you will come up with your own style and finish your artwork faster than ever. Of course, we're talking about color pencil medium only. So just choosing the next like sphere and the techniques we're gonna use on it. We are going through the last one. In this example, you will learn to combine all the color pencil techniques together that you will need for this course. We are going to use two color pencil here again. We chose sphere, this one, because first it's simple. It's a simple example, but contains all the methods you need to learn and continue. You saw the cherries that you just saw on the screen had the same technique. So a lot of the artworks that you need to create requires these ones. Now we have to do the light, and first we're gonna determine where is the light here, which is here, and realize where are they placed and understand the shading and texture. We are going to use light yellow glaze, or if you don't have it, use just a bright color, a bright like yellow would be enough. And for the other ones we are going to use dark cadmium orange, which they complement each other in a very amazing way. Of course, we are going to learn how to draw shadows and create a 3D feeling on this one as well. Here, start following the color and the hand movement. Again, you can see any color and any brand with same technique. Later on, we will use different brands in this course, as I mentioned, to show you how to use other brands. Go around smoothly and very lightly, going around the surface and adding more layers without any pressure. We have to complete the first layer in circular movement, circular motion. Make sure all the parts are covered. Do not use a lot of pressure, please. Like you have, it's like you have to manage your pencil pressure. It is very important, and I cannot emphasize more. Almost done with the first layer. Now we're gonna go through the second layer with our cadmium orange, dark cadmium orange, and starting from the very bottom part and gradually go up as we learned previously in other spheres. If you don't have these two colors, or even if you don't like these two colors, you can use other ones that you feel like, okay, these colors really excite me, I want to use them, or even experiment how the other colors like gonna look like. And I look forward to actually receiving your works, and I could see, comment, and like accompany you through your journey. I have to be honest, nothing makes me happier than receiving your projects and assignments and see you have done more. It makes me very proud and happy. One of the best feelings in the world, to be honest. Slowly, we are going through it. It's exactly the same technique we used previously with the other two colors, our purple, which was violet, and magenta. Keep adding layers. Each layer we add more pressure. Instead of just sudden pressure, we keep adding layers to create that pressure. Repeating the process. Feels like almost the third layer, but we still have the second layer pressure. That's why I don't call it a third layer still. Now I can call it third layer because now let's see the pressure I'm going to use here. Here we repeat the process and add more pressure on the both paper and pencil, go around circular movements and cover all the needed areas. Now we call this pressure. Please follow the screen and the hand and practice while you're watching. It's the best because if you're just watching, you might forget what we have done, but if you have your mediums like in front of you, it's going to be amazing. Follow along. So you have done two things at the same time. You have learned and also practice. And also you can send your practices to me. Cover all the areas that they need to be covered. Go around. You can see in the mid part we are reducing the pressure. However, we're still covering it. Now with the our yellow color, again we go and add more pencil pressure on it. I try to cover most of the sphere. The middle part of the yellow pencil should add more and create more layers. And since we go up, the color yellow pressure reduces as well. And our hand movement we should put less pressure onto it. As I mentioned, even though this practice seems very easy, but it requires a lot of practice, guys, with different color pencils and different color pencil combination. So I would really appreciate even you do more spheres, more circles, and with different colors, and then like practice. Now adding the orange cadmium again, starting from the bottom part, adding more pressure. We are going to cover the yellow one that we draw, so it's like blending the two colors well together. Look at the hand movement. Slowly going around. The color is getting even livelier. So when you add more color, you can see how lively it became. From here, our orange is going to get mixed well with yellow, and I have to say more in the middle and use less pressure to blend the two colors well. As you can see, we can keep adding as many layers as you want. There is no specific numbers. It's all about your hand pressure and how much more realistic you want it to get. We are using the orange pencil more and more and add more layers. Add more yellow color. Make sure our lines are neat so they don't feel like too shaky. Just minimum pressure here because we don't want to really get away the yellow color that we have drawn. Be careful, like minimal pressure. These are the last touches that we try to fix everything that needed to be fixed, such as the outlines of the sphere to look finer or add more layers of the color. These details makes your work look much better. Don't let your layers feel separated from each other. So white pencil, another technique that we just saw on the next sphere, the blue one that you can see on the screen. We didn't use it on the previous one, we use only pressure on the previous one. Now we're gonna blend to make our, we call this burnishing, to make our colors look richer. We don't really need to add white pencil to blend or burnish. This is kind of called medium burnishing. Start from the highlight and gradually go down and go through the layers. Using white pencil can be personal choice, guys, and a style and your own style. It's, I mean, like it's your own style to use it or not. Some people really don't like it. Overall, or in this course, it all depends if you want to keep using. So you do have that personal choice to get rid of those textures or get rid of those graininess or not. Now this is another pencil that we are using. So the light is coming from this side, and you can see why it is, because the highlights is there, and now on the screen you can see different spheres and how the highlights can look like and where they placed. So as you saw, we showed you where the sun comes in and from which direction in order to create the shadow underneath our sphere. From the top right side of the paper, the light comes in, so naturally we have the shading here, as you can see, which would be the darkest part, that very like that line. As after we draw the black line with our black pencil, we're gonna start like adding more less minimum pressure and add more dark color. I recommend like more dark gray rather than black, but if you don't have it, that's why we are using black, so you know that you still can use this color as well. Again, here are the darker places of our drawing, and you can add lots of pressure at the very beginning, the main line, the outline, and gradually reduce the pressure from the line onwards. You can use a combination of warm gray number 6 and combine it with black if you need to. You also need to use a second color pencil sometimes, or just do it with your hand pressure. So keep watching and repeating please after that. Make sure to leave the highlight on the shadows as well, and don't go all black. A lot of students, they do this, they think, okay, let's finish it. Everything, the same pressure, just black. It's not good, it's not natural, it's not realistic. So don't do that, please. Slowly from this side, make sure it's harmonized, it's done from dark to light. Keep adding layers, even for the shading, even for the shadow parts of this area. Here I'm going to show you how to use Real Blender after this, because as I promised, we have to use a lot of different techniques. So let me just make sure we have all the layers, and then I'm going to show you what is a blender, which usually you can find it with Caran Dash, like brand. They have like real blender that you can buy. I won't use it in this course. It's just for you to look, and if you want to use it in the future or not is a personal choice. Now this is what it's called and looks like. It almost does the same thing that white pencil does, but it doesn't add that whiteness onto it. It just blend the colors and get the graininess away. This is only mainly to show you how it looks like, and you can either use the combination of two pencils. It's called like one of the techniques is called combination of two pencils together and blend them well, or the other one is called one pencil pressure filling, or with white pencil combination, and this one it's with blender. So again, looking at cherries, all the parts determine where to put which layer. Each part has its own texture, such as the leaf and the stem parts that have more pressure onto them. This example is a perfect example of how to use the techniques we just learned on the sphere and use it here. Well guys, as you can see this example, we're also done with our main examples. So look at this cherry, see which techniques have been done on it. I'm just gonna point at them and you have to guess. And also, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. The next lesson is very important, either right now or have a rest. Let's go to the onto the next lesson and keep practicing. So I still hope you enjoyed this part, all these techniques. Please do send them to me and I can correct anything, any parts that needs to be corrected, or even just we exchange our artworks so we could see your progress at the same time. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next course, see you in the next lesson, and bye bye now.